Ooh, here's a favorite of mine, and not even of an elite player, but a solid player though.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, sometimes it's a classic set, sometimes it's a player, sometimes it's the merger of both. Here, I'm just gonna say that this gets in because it's Topps, first card. Of course, there was the 51 red back and blue back set, but to have kind of a normal size in terms of of dimensions, normal size in terms of number of cards, you can still consider 52 maybe Topps first set. So first card of the first set, and that's why I'll vote for this card. Still has a lot of hobby popularity too. Of course, card number 1 in this set, it's a condition rarity, so that gives it a little bit of extra collecting flair or fun or challenge, however you want to classify it. But the Pafko gets in for me.
Among the copies that you have seen, what type of shape are they usually in?
Yeah, rubber band marks definitely common on this, and 52 Topps has this way of kind of having the color flake, I guess I'll say. So a lot of snowy damage there. Obviously, the corners and edges get trashed, and the card can just kind of get a weak cardboard, right? Where it's just not a sturdy card anymore. But yeah, kind of runs the gamut, right? I mean, if you're on top of the stack, yeah, you're gonna get spilled on, in addition to the rubber band marks and any other things that might come this stack of cards in a way, right?
Two other things I think about this card. Bobby Thompson hit the home run. Pafko was in the outfield, and the ball, flew over his head.
Okay.
And the second thing I think of is the 2010 Kevin Smith movie Cop Out that starred Tracy Morgan and Bruce Willis. And the major plot of the movie was about a 1952 Topps Andy Pafko. I don't remember if it was created or not, but it was like in mint condition. And the one of the characters needed to sell this card because to pay for his daughter's wedding, and the card was stolen. So the movie's about getting the card back. So I think this is the only card we're going to talk about today that is the center of a movie.
Right, that's great. Well, that's too bad. It's too bad we can't mention Tracy Morgan for every card, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, here's another one of my favorites.
All right. So, strictly for difficulty, popularity, everybody who's completing a 67 set needs this, and maybe a couple other high numbers to complete their set. It is definitely in high demand in the hobby. So this card, we see so many rookie cards, right, on this ballot in the Hall of Fame. This one definitely has to be there too. So this is pretty high on my list. This is probably, looking over my list, this is probably would get my third highest ranking.
Want to sound mean or disrespectful to cards, after, post-war cards, but the 1950s and 60s and 70s, a lot of those cards could be considered junk wax type cards in terms of population. Now, obviously, you got different players, and they were not produced nearly to anywhere of the population of cards in the 80s or 90s. But you go to a card show and you see a ton of 1950s, 60s, and 70s cards. And even with the 50s cards, Paul, who owns a great card store and he travels to all the shows, Paul Borges, recently bought a collection that had 20 Sandy Koufax rookie cards, give or take, and 4 Mentes and a bunch of 55 Aarons. But this card is the opposite. I would think of this card as more of a pre-war type of population if you're just going by what gem rate has. I remember growing up in the 80s of this card, and when it came to pitchers, regardless if you're talking about 1950s or 60s cards, this was the card to own. And I looked it up, and I looked at various price guides, and this was second most valuable 60s cards after the Mantle cards, of course. But in terms of rookie cards, it was the second most valuable rookie card because you had the 63 rows and then you had this, and everything was after this. Then, Nolan Ryan signs with the Texas Rangers, and bang, he gets 4,000 strikeouts, and then that becomes 5,000 strikeouts. He gets his 300th win, the sixth and seventh no hitters of his career. And that card, even though probably having, I would guess, 3 to 4 times the amount of cards printed compared to this.
At least, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and not only is this in the last series, but it's a single print. So unlike the Carew, which had 2 on per sheet, we only had 1 of the Seaver card.
Mm-hmm.
So
right, so yeah, kind of a perfect storm there, right? Of low production, high end Hall of Famer from the era. So, oh yeah, and Seaver, I guess until Hall of Fame ballots were public, right? He had the highest percentage of votes. I didn't think about that. Yeah. I'm seeing here, the Ryan rookie. I can't remember what years some of these cards went in, but the Ryan rookie was part of the inaugural class for the Baseball Card Hall of Fame. So yeah, to have this one kind of languishing out here for like 6 years later.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising to see it still out here. Well, you mentioned earlier about the a lot of 50s and 60s rookie cards kind of being fodder now. Anybody paying attention knows that we skipped over a few chronologically, right, to land on this that were on the ballot. But this one, yeah, I definitely think is worthy.
People talk about the 1952 Topps Eddie Matthews being the most valuable Topps rookie, and that's true. Aaron's right there too behind. But this is the second scarcest card of all the Topps rookies from 52 onwards. So if you discount the 52 set and start with 53, this is the hardest Topps card to find. So with that, in all your years being a dealer in a store or at shows, I was just curious, how often do you come across these in, collector grade or higher?
Sure. I have a few a year probably, and believe me, I don't have them for too long. Anytime you price this card right, it's gone in a week or two, right? So anytime I get them, they're gone before I know it.
Okay. And before we leave this card, just for folks know, on the Beckett issue 100, when Mike Payne wrote his article in 1995, this was the 18th most popular post-war card. Here we have the 1968 Johnny Bench.
All right, and this is probably my second highest ranked card on this list. Just because Bench has always been considered one of the best catchers ever. So again, one that I was surprised to still see out here on the ballot that hadn't made it into their hall yet. Another really popular card, even though, like we were just talking about with the Seaver, right? This is a 68. It's out there. But a card that I still don't get that often. They don't come out of collectors' hands that often. And that 68 set, it's just the Ryan, the Mantle, and the Bench. So whenever I have this card too, people snatch it up right away. And I think you see some of that coming from some of that popularity also coming from the Big Red Machine, from the Cincinnati baseball collector base, which I tell you what, baseball fans in Ohio are just great card collectors between the history in Cleveland and Cincinnati. They've got great, passionate collectors out there.
Yeah. When I returned to the hobby in 2018, I just concentrated on Schmidt, Carlton, and a little bit of Reggie. And when I got full blown back into it in late 2022, this was one of the first cards I picked up because I always wanted
Mhm.
it as a child. I do remember the baseball bunch, and he was the host on that, and I watched that every week growing up. So bench does have a special place in my heart, just not for beating the Phillies. A lot of those strong Phillies teams in the 1970s. I was also curious if you ever stumbled upon the Venezuelan version of this card.
Oh, I've never owned it, and I rarely see it. Yeah, it rarely pops up. Some of those Hall of Fame rookies, the Yaz are kind of unicorns. From or the Ryan too, obviously are unicorns from the Venezuelan world. You have one?
No, no, no. I spent enough on that 68 Rhine when I was able to get all four
Well, that's
versions.
pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that was enough. Yeah, I want to stay in my house and not get kicked out by my wife.